Hello everyone, happy Monday. Welcome back to our Daily Clues by Sam. And as usual, on Mondays, we have two puzzles to play today. So we're playing the daily one, which is an easy one, and the hardest difficulty one from the newsletter that Clues by Sam sends us every Monday if we subscribe to the newsletter. And with it comes a lot of the behind the scenes and some announcements that Sam does. So I recommend you subscribe to the newsletter if you want to get more puzzles and get more information as features come out. And if you want to do, you can just scroll the main page down here, and there's a subscribe option right here where you type your email address and you can find it there. Now, if you're new here, Clues by Sam is a board game that changes in difficulty along the week. And in that board, there's 20 people. Each of them is either a criminal or an innocent, and they might give you clues to help you solve the other people on the board. So I'm gonna play mine right now and explain my logic as I go. So if you need any help with the mechanics, hopefully I can clear it out for you. Let's start today's. Chris is saying that Floyd is one of two innocents in column B. So Floyd is an innocent. There's 5 people in column B and only 2 innocents, so that means 3 criminals. Let's keep that in mind. And Floyd says that only one of the 2 criminals to the left of Zena is in column C. So there's 2 people in column C who neighbor Zena, and only one of them. Nah, that's hard to read that clue. Only one of the 2 criminals to the left of Zena is the first part. So there's 3 people to the left of Zena, and 2 of those 3 are criminals. And one of those 2 criminals is in column C. So that means that Wally is a criminal. And of the people left to the left of Zena, Umar and Vera, one of them has to be the second criminal. So that means that we tag them with the same color to indicate that wherever one of them is, the other one is not going to be. And that's all the information that we can get from Floyd's clue. So we tap it and then it goes see-through, so it doesn't catch as much attention because we don't need to use it anymore. Now Wally says there are exactly 2 innocents below Bonnie. Okay, so that means that the second innocent and last one for column B, as said by Chris, is not Bonnie, right? Because there's the second innocent below her here in column B. So that makes her a criminal, almost clicked innocent there. But from Wally's clue, we can't say who is the second innocent, so we can dismiss it as well. Bonnie says that both innocents in row 1 are connected. So Chris is in row 1 and he's one of the innocents, so that means that the second innocent has to be connected to him. And Bonnie, who is connected to him, is not an innocent, so the other person connected to him has to be. And since we know there's only 2 innocents in column in row 1 from the word both, we know that Adam is not an innocent, and we get 2 new people from that clue, but not any more information, so we dismiss it. Now Adam says that row 5 is the only row with 1 innocent only, and we know that there's 1 innocent here to the left of Zena, right? So Zena herself is not an innocent, and we keep that clue there to remind us that in other rows, there's going to be at least 2 innocents or none. Now Zena says that there are no innocents in row 4 who neighbor Paul. So Paul is in row 4 himself, and he only has 1 person in that same row neighboring him, and that person is not an innocent, so that means that Kita is a criminal, and she says there are exactly 2 innocents in between Hazel and Zena. So there's 2 people between Hazel and Zena, which means that those 2 have to be innocent, right? So we don't need Kita's clue anymore. Now we know that each of the rows up to row 5 has to have a second innocent, because row 5 is the only one with 1 innocent only. Now, we know that Laura and Vera are opposites as well, because there's only 1 more innocent in column B. And Olga says that only 1 person in a corner has a criminal above them. So there's 4 people in the corners, Adam, Diane, Umar, and Zena. And only 2 of them have anybody above them, right? Because Adam and Diane don't have anybody above them. So that means that either Umar or Zena are the single person that has a criminal above them. And we know already that Zena is not that person because above her there's already an innocent. So Paul has to be a criminal, right? Yeah. and we don't need Olga's clue anymore. Since we know that row 4 needs a second instant, Ruth has to be that second instant, the only person left in that row, and we get a new clue from her, saying that exactly one instant in column D is neighboring Diane. So Diane is in the same situation as Paul was. She is in column D herself, and she has only one person in column D neighboring her. So that person has to be an instant, and we don't need Ruth's clue anymore. Now Hazel says there are a total of 8 instants in column C and D. So if we sum column C and column D in instants, there's going to be a total of 8 people who are instants. There's 4 already in column D, and that's the total for column D, which means there has to be 4 in column C as well. So both of the people left in column C have to be instants, so we can have a total of 8. And we don't need Hazel's clue anymore. No one else says that row 3 is the only row with exactly one criminal. Okay, I read it as the same clue as Adam's, but it's the opposite. Row 3 is the only row with one criminal. And what do we get from there? We don't get to know who is the criminal in row 3. What we get is that row 2 can't have one criminal only, and there's only one person left in that row to reveal. So Eric here couldn't be a criminal, otherwise row 2 would be left with one criminal only. So he has to be an innocent as well. And we know that no other rows are gonna have only one criminal, so we can dismiss Noah's clue. Eric says that only one person in a corner has a criminal directly to the right of them. So same as Adam and Diane didn't have anybody above them, there's 2 people in a corner who don't have anybody to their right, Diane and Zena. So that means that either Adam or Umar are gonna be the person that has a criminal to their right, and Adam already does. So we know that to the right of Umar there's an innocent. And Vera, who we revealed now, was opposites both with Laura and with Umar, so both of those guys are criminals. And we know that row 3 has only one criminal, so Jason has to be an innocent in this case. And we are in this puzzle. Very nice, very nice. That took me a lot. Hope I could explain it well enough for you guys. And we're gonna jump straight into the bonus puzzle for today. So today we have a brutal one. It's June the 29th, and there was also some community puzzles that Sam posted in the newsletter. I'm gonna try to play those as well, but I'm always more looking forward to playing the bonus ones that are harder. So we have a brutal one today. I'm gonna try that out. Let's restart the timer and look at Tina's clue saying that Claire is one of Gary's 3 instant neighbors. So Claire is an instant. Gary has 5 neighbors total. 3 of them are instants, which means 2 criminals. So we don't know who those are. Let's leave Tina's clue there to remind us of that. Claire says that both criminals above Z are connected. So Janet has to be one of the criminals, and either Pam or Floyd are the second and last one. Janet says that column A is the only column with exactly 2 criminals. So there's 2 criminals above Ziad here, which means that Ziad has to be the third one. And now Ziad says that only one of the 3 criminals neighboring Kumar is to the left of Pam. So Kumar is to the left of Pam, and there's only one person neighboring him. He has to be a criminal, Logan. And now Logan says that there are 9 innocents total. So, how does that go? How does that help me? We know that column A has a total of 3 innocents, plus Claire, that's 4, plus Tina, that's 5, 6 with either Pam or Floyd, right? So that makes column C have to have 3 innocents. That can't happen because column A is the only column with 3 innocents. Huh? Oh, column B, we don't know the total for column B. Okay, let's try this. I'm just gonna try to make, because we know that Kumar shares a neighbor with Gary and Logan, of course, but we already know what Logan is. If we make Hilda an innocent, I don't know if I'm going the right way here, but we know that Kumar has to have 3 innocent neighbors, 3 criminal neighbors. One of them is Logan. Gary also needs 3. Gary needs 3 innocent neighbors. So Hilda does decide a lot for us. Hilda does decide a lot for us. Let me go back to my math question. 9 instances total, and we know there's 2 criminals in column A. So let's make Barb and Gary those 2 criminals. We know that there's gonna be 2 innocents here in column D. So that's 5, 6 with Claire. We need 3 more. But the thing is, Gary and Kumar have set totals. Gary needs 1 more innocent, which would have to be Hilda, and Kumar needs 1 more criminal, which would have to be Ruby. So that's 1 innocent. We know that column B couldn't have a 3rd innocent in this scenario. So 1 that would have to be a criminal. And we would need to put 2 instances in column C, which can happen. It's totally fine. If I change Hilda to be a criminal, how does that go for Gary? That makes both Barb and Kumar innocents, because Gary needs 3 innocents. Now, Gary would need to be now there's 2 innocents in column A, and there's only 1 more innocent. Could it be that both Gary and Kita are criminals? And if that's the case, Ruby is an innocent for Kumar? Kumar has 3 criminal neighbors, which would make Uma an innocent as well. And Wanda a criminal. Am I looking at Wanda always being a criminal? Because if that's the case, it is brutal. Sam, give me 1 more tag on the bottom left corner, please. Just 1 more. So I can try 1 more scenario before erasing everything. But let me try to make because the first thing is, I'm gonna clear everything. But the first thing is, if I make Wanda an innocent, I either have to make both Ruby and Hilda innocents, so that column A doesn't end up with 3 innocents. And in that case, both Gary and Kita would have to be criminals, which would force everybody else in column A to be an innocent. And that breaks. No, it doesn't. Kumar has 3 criminals. Gary has more than 3 innocents, so it does break. So it does break. But if I make Wanda innocent and make both Ruby and Hilda criminals, Keita and Gary would have to be innocent for Kumar. And Kumar and Barb would have to be innocent for Gary. So that breaks column A. Wanda has to be a criminal. Wanda now says there are exactly 2 innocents above Uma. So Uma is one of the innocents in column A. And I don't need Wanda's clue anymore. Uma says that an odd number of innocents on the edges neighbor Igor. So Igor has 5 people neighboring him on the edges, and not number of those are innocents. We know it's not 5 because there's already a criminal there. It could be 3. If it is 3. Oh, we know that Floyd and Pam are opposites, don't we? Yeah. So since we know that Floyd and Pam are opposites, Igor has 2 criminals neighboring him on the edges already and 2 innocents. So he couldn't be left with 2 innocents because that's an even number. He needs a third one. So Eli has to be an innocent. So thank you, Eli. But you didn't give me any new clues. So what do we do now? What do we know? We know that Hilda and Ruby are opposites, right? Because them being both criminals broke column A. Yeah. And them being both innocents broke, did it? Yeah, it breaks Gary. So Ruby and Hilda are opposites. Let me tag them with a different color. Clear the lower tags. And now we know the total of innocents for column A, it's 3. Column B is 2, so 5. And column D is 2, so 7. Which means we need 2 more in column C. So we have only 1 more innocent in column C. And I might have miscalculated all that, but I'm gonna go with that assumption. If I get it wrong, you warn me. How do I now extract anything else from that? Do I try to make... Oh, column A is the only column with exactly 2 criminals. So there could be 2 innocents in column C, which is what there is. There is one of Gary's 3 innocent neighbors. So can we try to make... Maybe Gary and Kumar are gonna be the deal breaker here. Because we know that Gary needs 3 innocents. If I give him Barb and Kumar and make Hilda a criminal, now Kumar needs 1 more criminal neighboring him. And that would break. Because we need 2 criminals in column A. If I make Hilda... So is that Kumar? Can I make Kumar a criminal? And if I do that, Barb and Hilda are innocents for Gary. And that makes Gary and Kita opposites. Right? Which would work for us. So what do we get from that? Can I make Barb a criminal? I mean, why could I not? Because if I do, Hilda and Kumar have to be innocents, which is fine. Now Kumar. Yeah. Will make Kit and Gary opposites. So is the only thing we know that Kit and Gary are opposites? This is hard. Column A is the only column with two criminals. This doesn't disambiguate anything. I don't think I need to see its clue for anything else other than Kumar having three criminals. Um yeah, I guess since we know that Logan is a criminal and that Hilda and Ruby are opposites, Gary and Kita have to be opposites. Because otherwise Kumar would end up with too many criminals. And that makes Kumar and Barb opposites as well because there has to be a second criminal in column A. But what do I get from that? Maybe if I try to make both Gary and Kumar instance that breaks and they are opposites as well. Because if I try to make both of them innocents, or maybe not them, maybe the people outside of them, is what matters. Because now Gary would have to have Hilda be an innocent. So he can have three. And Kumar would have three criminals. So that works actually, both of them being innocents. Does it work with both of them being criminals? And if that's the case, Hilda would have to be an innocent, and Ruby would have to be a criminal. Kumar has three, Gary has three. So they are samesies. They are not opposites. If they are not opposites, did I learn something with what I just did that I forgot completely about? I'm gonna do the two tags thing. If they are both criminals, then Hilda is an innocent and Ruby a criminal. 3. If they are both innocents, then Gary has 1, 2, 3. Hilda is always an innocent. And Kumar has 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Hilda is always an innocent and Ruby is always a criminal. Um, 2 new clues. Only one of the 4 criminals neighboring Logan is in row 3. So Kumar and Martin are opposites. And Logan has to have 4 criminals neighboring him. And Ruby says there's an equal number of criminals in rows 1 and 4. criminals. Okay. So now we check Kumar and Gary being both criminals. That forces Floyd to be a criminal, first of all. Second, Kumar being a criminal forces Martin to be an innocent, so Igor has to be a criminal because Logan needs 4 criminals neighboring him. Other. I think now there's too many innocents on the board. Because Xavier would have to be an innocent as well, since column C couldn't be left with 3. And with that, we end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 innocents on the board, which is more than the 9 we know there is total. So Gary and Kumar have to be innocents. Why did I do that? Like, how am I not sure? How am I not sure? I guess the puzzle difficulty has to tell you that even though when you're sure, you gotta be surer. Because this works. It just doesn't work with the 10 thing. But why am I not... Who did I try? Gary? Why is Gary not in the mix? Because if I try to make Kumar and Gary innocents and I make Barb and Keita criminals, Kumar being innocent makes Martin a criminal? How many people does Logan have now as criminals neighboring him? Peter, Ruby, and Martin, that's 3. So Igor and Scott would be opposites. Oh, this is becoming a mess. And that makes 3. 1, 2. It makes 2 innocents. So Xavier would have to be an innocent. No, Xavier would have to be a criminal. So that this is what I'm talking about. Why did I make Floyd a criminal before? Because of the number of criminals in row 4. And now there's 2 innocents in row 4. So Scott would have to be an innocent. And Igor a criminal, and Floyd would have to be a criminal too. So what we get from the scenario is actually that Floyd and Igor are always criminals. But I'm not too happy about that. And Scott. This has turned into an experimentation run. Where I'm like, is this strategy actually helping? Because what am I looking for now? I know that I need to determine that row 1 and row 4 have the same number of innocents and criminals. Logan has to have 4 criminals neighboring him. So 1, 2, 3, 4 works. 1, 2, 3, 4 works. Having 2 criminals. There has to be one criminal in row 1 because there's already a criminal in row 4. The last thing I tried was Floyd, right? Why couldn't Floyd be an innocent? If he's an innocent, Barb has to be a criminal. Barb is a criminal, we know that Gary's an innocent, Coomer is an innocent, and Keita is a criminal. Coomer being an innocent makes Martin a criminal because the people neighboring Logan in row 3 are opposites. Now there's 2 criminals in row 4, so it already breaks before I tried anything else with Floyd being innocent. So why can't I say that Floyd is a criminal? I'm gonna get to the bottom of this because it doesn't make any sense. Is there a way I can make this work? I know that Barb and Coomer and Gary and Keita are opposites. And I know that Gary and Coomer are samenes's. So there isn't a way I can make Floyd work. Unless Gary and Coomer are not opposites. Are not samenes's. Which I don't think they can be. If I make Barb a criminal. And Gary a criminal. It actually does work. Gary has 3 and Coomer has 3. So how did I determine what? I'm so lost in the sauce. How did I determine that what I know? Oh, since these guys are opposites and these guys are opposites, that gives Logan 3 criminals always. So that makes Igor and Scott always opposites. I'm moving on. I'm moving on because I don't understand how I got Gary and Coomer to be samenes's in my head. I got so confused there. I don't understand what I got wrong. I'm gonna have to review later in the footage what happened there. Igor and Scott are always opposites because of Logan now. And I'm not sure of anything else anymore. But now we know that there's 2 instances in column C. And we couldn't have a third. We couldn't have Xavier being innocent because that would render column C a second column with 2 criminals. So Xavier has to be a criminal. And I'm always overriding Pam and Floyd being opposites. Because I think that now we are gonna be in a down to the numbers situation. Or are we? I think we are. We couldn't have both Keita and Scott be criminals because there's no way to make 3 criminals in row 1, and there has to be one criminal in row 1 because row 4 has one criminal already. Can both Keita and Scott be innocents? Or rather, can both Barb and Floyd be criminals? If they are, Barb's gonna make Coomer an innocent. What am I doing? Which makes, yeah, Floyd and Barb being criminals makes Coomer an innocent, which makes Martin a criminal. Keita and Scott are gonna be opposites. I mean, is there a way they couldn't both be innocents? Like, what am I doing here? Both of them are innocents. They couldn't both be criminals as well. I'm making no sense. I'm panicking severely. If I make Keita an innocent and Scott an innocent, like, what is the total innocence in this scenario? We have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And if it is the opposite, I don't know where to look anymore. Let me make. I think it has to do with Floyd. Because if I make Floyd an innocent now, and I make Barb a criminal now, that will make Coomer an innocent again. Martin a criminal. Now there's only one innocent in row 1. There's only one criminal in row 1, and that's Ruby in row 4, so both Scott and Keita are innocents, which makes Igor a criminal and Gary a criminal. Logan has 4 criminals, so that's fine. Ham is a criminal as well. How many innocents we have on the board? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 9 that way. And in both scenarios, Barb is a criminal. Can I try to make Barb an innocent then? That would make Floyd a criminal, Pam an innocent. And that's fine. Barb being an innocent makes Coomer a criminal, which makes Martin an innocent. Now, both Keita and Scott would have to be innocents because Ruby is the single innocent in row 4, which makes Gary and Igor criminals. And now how many innocents we have? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Too many innocents. So Barb's a criminal, which makes Coomer an innocent, which makes Martin a criminal. Okay. I saw that there's an option. I clicked settings here. Saw that there's an option to automatically show known clues as dimmed. That's interesting. I might try that. Hint button. It's disabled for me because I don't use hints. And you can change the corner tag side if you're left-handed and you're playing on your mobile phone. You can change the corner tag so it doesn't obscure the information on the card. So that's really nice. Now, exactly two of the five criminals neighboring Martin are in row two. So Martin has to have a second criminal in row two, who is Igor, which makes Scott an innocent. And Martin has to have a fifth criminal. So far he has four, so Pam is a criminal as well, which makes Floyd an innocent. Floyd was already an innocent, wasn't it? Oh, Keith is an innocent now, and Gary is a criminal because of row one. A lot of bad choices there, bad strategies. Don't know how I got caught in my delusion that Gary and Coomer were samesies. That really bummed me up. Like I'm not happy with that. But the puzzle was brutal after all. I gotta get better. Get good. I have nothing else to say. I'm gonna review my strategies, get better, learn from my mistakes. As always, if you know, because you're seeing my line of thought, you can like pinpoint what got me to think something that I shouldn't. Probably the tags, usually the tags, like especially the more tags you use, the more clues involved in a single scenario, the harder it is for you to put it together and remember everything that's affecting a single card. Or sometimes I might have like checked both scenarios and saw that it worked, and then I skipped I skipped trying one more scenario where they could both be opposites and it would work as well. So combination of mistakes. Maybe rushing to get to an answer. Shouldn't do that as well. So a lot of learning points there. I hope you guys enjoyed the video nonetheless. Sorry about that once again. I hope you have a great week and I'll see you tomorrow for more Clues by Sam. Bye bye.